Everybody, welcome to Performance Anxiety, and thank you for listening. This week's guest comes all the way from Austria. Matt Boroff is dropping a new album. It's a bit of a departure from his guitar-based albums of the past, but that's just part of this episode. He tells us why he moved from New Jersey to Austria, although the bigger question is, why wouldn't you? He explains his visual approach to music, how he connected with Mark Lanegan, and why he had a raw onion in his ear. Follow him at Matt Boroff on social media. Follow us at Performance ANX. Subscribe, rate, review, and share. Now bust out your own home remedies for anything and listen to Matt Boroff.
Hi, this is Matt. Hi, this is musician and sometimes emotional contortionist Matt Boroff. I have a new album called Beautiful Machine coming out, and you are listening to Performance Anxiety.
Well, this is really awesome, man. I've been listening to a lot of the music, of your back catalog and the new music,
Okay.
and I really like it. So I don't usually contact guests as much as you and I have been in touch with each other, so it's pretty awesome.
It was totally cool. I'm glad that you reached out to me after you heard the stuff, and I'm not living on some unreachable cloud, like that. So it's totally down to earth, and I'm fine with that. And I'm honestly. As you already spoke with Ian, and then I clicked on your page and saw, sort of illustrious roster of guests that you have. It's an honor for me to be in good company. So
thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
I appreciate that. That means a lot. I've been very fortunate with some of the people I've gotten. It's just a matter of making one or two decent connections, and then I think making letting the guests have a good time on the show. Just
how are you usually getting in touch with people? Just
throwing shit against the wall, man.
Through social media?
Yeah, usually through social media. A couple have been through. This is a weird story about how I got some of the guests. I big fan of the band of Susans back in the early mid 90s.
Is that the band that has like birds on the covers of their albums or something?
No, they've got
like a drawing of a sparrow or something.
No.
I know the name and that, and I guess I should know them, but I don't.
Band of Susans is they were like this big art rock band. It had Robert Poss in it. All
right.
Susan Stenger, Karen Hagloff, Mark Lonergan, Paige Hamilton from Helmet was in it for a little bit, and I've got all their albums, and I was listening to it one day. They did a lot with they did some covers with Reese Chatham's work, Glenn Branca, guys like that, and I was listening, and I was listening to their album Love Agenda, and I was looking, and I had read somewhere that their guitarist Karen Hagloff had left the band after that one album and gone to medical school and ended up becoming an oncologist. Mm-hmm. And I was like, that's a crazy story. I want to know what happened. How did that happen?
Right. Yeah.
And that was one of the first things that really made me want to do this podcast. I was doing another couple of podcasts before this one, and I decided I wanted to do. They were more sports oriented, and I decided I wanted. My other big passion is music, so I wanted to do something in music. So I reached out to Karen, and she got back, and she was like, "Sure, yeah, I'd come on, we can talk about it." Like a week before we had the date set, her PR guy sent me an email. I was like, "Hey, I see you're going to have one of my clients on your show. Would you be interested in having somebody else on?" But anyway, so you had your own ear issue that you ended up.
Yeah, but now it's sort of like, I was at the refrigerator and I spilled a little milk.
But you had the weirdest remedy for it. I got to know if this worked.
Okay, but is this recording now?
Oh yeah.
Okay, all right. So it's sort of like, I'm just at a point where like I don't really care. I'll just try anything. So
so what happened?
It was suggested to me that I put like a dish towel full of like raw onion against my ear for as long as I can stand it.
For as long as you can stand it?
Yeah, well, it's like I guess you'd say it's like a lonely solution. Unless someone likes that, or following them wherever they go. But it seemed to alleviate the problem, because my ear was, well, the story is that I was riding my bike and suddenly like I got caught in like this freezing squall rainstorm that was traveling sideways, and it just like went into my left ear. And when I got out of it, I'm like, my ear was just like it felt like somebody put an envelope opener into my ear, and like tickled my brain. And and the next day, my ear was just completely closed up. So now it opened a little bit, but the only thing is that it's ringing, and it sounds like there's every time I talk, it sounds like there's a little cricket burrowed in my ear. So it's it's annoying, I guess, but at the same time, I feel a little less alone. But
a little cricket in your head.
Yeah, it's just not me and me. It's me and
It's like my wife's grandmother used to say whenever I was saying we're doing this, she's like, "Who's this we? You got a mouse in your pocket, so now you got a cricket in your ear."
I got a cricket in my ear.
So that's so the raw onion on your ear actually helped.
Yeah, I mean, don't ask me why. I'm not walking around with
Matt Boroff's home remedies
in my ear today, and like lemon drops on my forehead during a waning gibbous on a Tuesday or something like that to cure
Vicks Vapor Rub on your feet.
Yeah, whatever works. Maybe it was like the placebo effect. I don't know, but I can hear you, and so.
Well, that's good.
That's all that matters.
That's good. And what a day for you to have a cricket in your head. You gotta sit here and chat for a while on a podcast.
I'm like the Pinocchio of 2020.
So I would try to do as much research as I can on my guests before I have you on. And you're not the easiest guy to find information on. So what I did was I found a German Wikipedia page on you.
Okay, that's probably not good either.
And I couldn't read it because I don't know German, so I had Google Translate.
It was nice, though, didn't it?
It was beautiful, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I had it translated through Google or Wikipedia, whoever translates it.
Right.
And do you want to know a little bit about you translated?
Can you please tell me what German Wikipedia is saying about me and how far the lies go? So.
Absolutely. This is about Matt Boroff in the Mirrors. This is how it starts.
That's a while ago. Yeah.
This is 2006. This is how it starts off. So the trio caused a sensation in the media in 2004 with the release of the self-titled debut album Matt Boroff. It appeared on the Low End Records label, which is operated by drummer Little Konzet. I hope I'm pronouncing that right.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. At the time, Matt Boroff won the Ton Band Test online band competition. The jury, consisting of well-known Austrian music journalists, described the music as, and this is in quotations, dirty, fresh, irritating, exciting, and made international comparisons. Had the Jesus Lizard ever recorded a pop album, it probably would have sounded like this.
That's true. I mean, I remember that.
Dirty, fresh, irritating, and exciting.
Suck back into eyes, watching the world in reverse, and on the other side of our lens, history repeats again. All this is rapture, all this is blindness, all this is real.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair.
Okay, so it goes on. The third album, Elevator Ride, was released in March 2008. The band was now called Matt Boroff and the Mirrors to underline the relevance of the rhythm section for the sound of the trio. Elevator Ride was also received with euphoria by the critics. The Austrian daily newspaper Der Standard spoke of a kind of rockabilly shot by the wolf of punk grunge, and desert rock, old but new. What in the hell is the Wolf of Punk? I don't know.
Well,
I want the Wolf of Punk.
I'll tell you one thing that one German word I really like, and I don't like them all. I don't know them all, but they have like a really direct way of saying things sometimes. And what we call, if directly translated, what we call a meat grinder, they call a flesh wolf.
Whoa!
So it's like this metal wolf, just like with jaws.
Oh, wow!
Eating your meat and turning it into like a Play-Doh creation or something. So, wow. The wolf of, maybe that's something. Maybe that's a way of describing things. But it
could be your next album.
It's nice, abstract, and poetic. So
your next album could be just called The Wolf of Punk.
The flesh wolf, flesh wolf, the meat wolf.
So So I guess what they're trying to say is that you take those three genres and you kind of mix them all together.
Yeah, I don't know that I mix grunge around, but
So all right,
I guess it's like a smorgasbord of some of those things, or it was then, and I think that's like 12 years ago.
Yeah,
it's the last one. That's what German Wikipedia.
When did you get into music? When did you start playing? Because you're from New Jersey, right? Originally.
Yeah, I'm from New Jersey, and
whereabouts in Jersey?
In West Orange, New Jersey.
I know exactly where that is. I grew up in Branchburg, so like right between Flemington and Somerville.
Yeah, it's North Jersey, like pretty close to New York City.
Yeah, it's
right outside 15, 20 minutes, depending on traffic, outside of the Holland and Lincoln Tunnel. Where do you want me to begin? I got into music. When did I get into it, or when did I become a musician who was playing live?
How did you start? When did the fascination with music begin? Did you grow up in a house full of music? Were your parents?
Yeah, well, my father. My father was not a musician, but I would say not from the perspective qualities that were sort of, had he tapped into them, he probably would have been a good musician, but his life didn't turn out that way. But he was really into, he was into the Rolling Stones and a lot of like Motown, Led Zeppelin. I guess this was like the late 60s, early 70s. And my first real experience with music is I had this little like orange and white plastic record player that like turn into a suitcase and like carry it around. Like I had that when I was like 4 or 5, and he gave me, I don't know exactly what the circumstances were, but he gave me like the Rolling Stones Hot Rocks record, which I think is like, it's like their hits from 65 to 70 or something like that,
something
or maybe
like that,
71 or 2. And I don't know why he gave it to me, but I'm imagining because like I might have gravitated toward it, and he saw that I'm okay. He actually likes this.
Yeah.
And I just remember listening to that record, and I was like staring at this cover, which was like I think it was like a photo montage of the band that somebody had done, where like their heads, sort of like a Russian, what is it called? Like a Matryoshka doll. Is that how you pronounce it? Like their heads were fitting in, like, it looked like a series of coconuts or something.
Yeah, well, one inside the other.
Yeah, and I was trying to, why does the reason that painted black sounds this way is because of the way this looks. Like I was trying to,
I know what you mean.
And just like that fascination. And then, music was always around me. And there was just a lot of like, I guess at the time everything was sort of like emotionally turbulent. And that was sort of my raft or anchor, like it is for a lot of people. And that's always where I went, and started with that. And then I had, I think I began like playing guitar when I was like 10 by just begging my parents for a guitar. And I think I had an uncle that lent me an acoustic, and then I was able to rent one from a music store at some point, but it kind of just sat on in the corner of my room. I wanted it to play itself.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that, you had to actually sit there and go through like these rudimentary exercises until it like gets into muscle memory. And when I was 14, just to backtrack a little bit, all I did was draw.
Okay.
I was just drawing. And, it sort of like felt preordained in a way that, okay, he's gonna be an artist or something like that. I didn't know exactly what that meant. I just drew a lot and didn't do anything else. And so, at a certain point, I think when I was like 13 going on 14, I just said to myself, like, I'm going to commit myself to this instrument and learn how it works.
Okay.
And because there was something, because I was just so, I don't know, depressed and hate-filled at the time, that there was something so much more immediate and visceral about connecting with music than there was with drawing a picture, at least the way it was for me at the age of 13 or 14. And just, being blasted against the wall by an amplifier was a lot more thrilling to me. And so I just for better or for worse, I'm kind of a person that has tunnel vision. Okay. And I just sort of like selectively go about things. And I selectively said, like, this is what I'm going to do. And I just played guitar like relentlessly with albums that I was listening to in my bedroom until I could play, like a year later.
Oh,
so and that was all I did. I was kind of like self-taught and just playing along with at the time, what would have been like, just like certain hardcore bands and like early Metallica and like Slayer and stuff like that. Like that's what was connecting with me at the time. And I just was playing along with those things and, doing like palm muting and trying to figure out like, to me, it was always just a sound. It was like, how do you make this thing sound like that?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
What's a pedal? Like what, and all that. And just, it was just like one thing at a time. And like that one thing led to another, but it began that way.
Okay.
Just wanting to make something, intense happen with this instrument.
I completely understand that. And I get the whole thing, wanting to make that sound and not knowing exactly how to make that intense sound.
And I approached it from like this drawing perspective, which I kind of still do. It's sort of like, well, when I do this and this, and I follow it by this, it kind of creates this picture. But when I do this and this and this, and I follow it by that, it creates this picture. It tells a different story. So it was always about like, how does it feel? What kind of picture does it create? Not like what note is this? I have no understanding of like how that worked at the time. And so it was always sort of like, I don't know, there's this, I've heard this expression, what you don't know is supported by what you do know. And it was sort of something like that. I didn't have an alternative. I didn't have a teacher. So,
well, that's a great approach to think of the music visually. Like you're saying, this. Yeah,
I still do. That's literally what I still do.
That's fantastic.
It's the same thing. There's nothing complicated about it. It's just like, if you do these three things, I see this picture, and it's sort of like if you're looking at clouds and you say, well, that cloud looks like a monkey making a piece of toast in a toaster that looks like a Chevy. But if he's going to have toast, then I guess he's going to need some butter. So that's what comes next. They're like, there's a logic to it, but there's no logic to it at all. It's like completely made up.
But the way you described it makes sense, though.
All right.
To me, at least, because I'm a visual guy. I was a photographer for years, and that makes sense to me. Trying to figure it out visually.
Yeah,
I'd never thought of it that way, to be honest. Because I play some very rudimentary guitar alone in one of my rooms in my house because nobody else wants to hear it. So maybe that I should think about that, doing it that way. Because I don't know
that's the synesthesia thing is it's just that seeing sounds and hearing colors. I think that can operate in varying degrees with people, but I think that the goal of any artist in any medium is to provoke a sensation in somebody, and I guess everybody reacts differently, but that's just the way it's always operated with me. Is that music is it's all about this movie in your head.
So when did you start meeting other people and playing in bands?
Well, when I was can I just run to the bathroom real quick?
Absolutely.
I'll be right back.
No problem. No problem. I will pause this.
Everything you tell me, I just see this yellow bottle filling up with urine.
No problem. I'm pausing it. All right, we're back.
God, that's so much better now. What happened was, so I was in high school in West Orange, and in art class, there was this, I guess it's, when you're in art class, there can be people that are a few years older than you in the same class.
Yeah.
So in my art class, there was this guy, Jerry, and he was always talking about music, and he was in a band, and he was part of this group of people that, as I said, it was right outside New York City, close enough. And there was, I think it was they had this Sunday matinee thing at CBGB where it's all ages.
Oh yeah,
so you could be 14 years old, and you could just go to any hardcore show that they had on Sunday, and that's what they did. And there was a whole a hardcore scene of young kids that were running out, and he was part of that, and they had a band, and I was just fascinated by, he was 2 years older than me, and was already playing shows all the time, in North New Jersey and New York, and they had a band that rehearsed 5 days a week after school.
Oh wow!
And so I at some point, he probably because of me just pestering him with questions, and all I wanted to do is talk about guitar, and he invited me to rehearsal. They rehearsed in the drummer's basement, and my mother had to drive me there. And they said, "Yeah, you can come to rehearsal and watch us play." And so I bought my little practice amp and guitar with me.
Yeah.
To watch them rehearse, and
just in case.
I rang the doorbell, opened up the doorbell, what are you doing? And I'm I don't know. Oh yeah. What are you doing? A practice amp and a guitar? I'm I don't know. And they're just I just pulled it out. I'm like a complete fucking idiot, and they didn't want to hear me play or anything like that. It wasn't an audition, but I watched them practice, and my ears were ringing because at the time, they bought stack amps.
Oh wow, yeah,
stuff like that, with eight 12-inch speakers in a little room in a basement, and that was just it for me. I saw that, and I just said I have to be doing this, and I think I was 14. No, I was probably 15 at that point. And then half a year or a year later, I tried to play with people and start something up, but for one reason or the other that didn't work out. And I heard that they were going to get rid of their second guitarist was leaving. And, I just had their demo cassette. And so I learned all their songs, and I just sort of jumped at the chance to audition for this band that played, 5 days a week and already had regular gigs.
Oh yeah.
And so, making a long story short, I made the audition, and I got into the band, and within a pretty short amount of time, we were playing all the time, and I was still in high school.
That's amazing.
Well, when I say all the time, it wasn't a coast to coast rehearsal, but I had rehearsal 5 days a week, and played regular gigs, and it just never stopped from there. It was just it started early, and that was that.
So this was like what, the early 90s or so?
Yeah, it was like 1988 probably when that happened. The early 90s. I mean, I graduated high school in 89, so it was probably like 88 and then 89, and then after I graduated, that situation persisted in that band, I think, for like another, almost 10 years.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you had kind of supported and acts like, Nirvana, Queens of Stone Age.
Yeah, that was at that time.
Okay.
And, we were playing a lot, and so it wasn't like Nirvana said, "Hey, come open for us."
Right.
But, if you're around playing all the time at that time, there's a good chance that we opened up for lots of people.
Yeah.
And we're all over we're just playing regularly in North New Jersey and New York, and we opened for them at like City Gardens in Trenton, where there was just like a steady flow of all kinds of great bands came through there, and we opened up.
I remember that place.
When I was 18, we opened up for the Bad Brains. For Bad Brains at what used to be the Ritz. I guess that was old like Studio 54, and
right.
It was really exciting, and like I might be getting this wrong, but this is at least the way I remember it. Is that there was the band like it was like us, Bad Brains, and Leeway, and there was this band Sick of It All.
Yeah, I remember them.
Somebody, for the way it was booked or something like that, they bumped them from the bill and they put us on. And so, back then it was always just like the barrier between like the scene itself and the bands. Like there was no barrier.
Right. Oh yeah.
What was great about it, and they just said, well, basically, I don't know. They told their fans, just like annihilate this band, when they get on stage. So like some guys like bought their parents, because it was a couple thousand people in a place like that. And
oh my gosh,
it was like an old style theater, and the curtain went up, and like just the first note, it was just like beer and saliva, just everything that could be thrown.
Oh, God.
And I just remember thinking like, oh my God, this is awful. But then the next second, like actually just being up there and like standing your ground and doing what you do is like, this is kind of fun in the same way that a roller coaster is fun.
Right.
And it was really cool. It was like having a mud fight. I mean, that was really another time.
Yeah. Oh my, music back then, it was, I don't know. It was, to me, I can't imagine growing up any other time, because my brother's a couple years younger than me, but he's a big fan of 50s, 60s, and early 70s stuff. He never got into the stuff, what was heavy and popular back, about the same time you and I, because I think we're approximately the same age. I graduated in 91, so I was probably seeing a lot of the same shows that you were seeing.
Definitely.
And to me, I can't even, I mean, I like 50s, 60s, 70s stuff, but the stuff from our time period is what really resonates with me and what I really gravitate to. And, just, I can't even imagine being a part of it on the stage. That to me would have just blown me away.
Well, you know what, when I kind of like, maybe I'll be like lying in bed, like doing really bad math, thinking about like, when was that? Wow. And what always strikes me is that like, and this just might be like completely fucking like old man talk, but I think like, I just never knew that was like the end of something. When you're in it, you never thought, well, this is like the last gasp of, that's the old man talk. Maybe it's not the last gasp. I'm just too ignorant to know what else is actually going on or like where it gravitated towards. But it was sort of like, there was this, then there was that. And then what happened? Like it just all kind of went into the recycling bin, and it just became like a Xerox copy of a Xerox copy of something else that was put in a glass and got diluted about 7 or 8 times. And then it's just sort of, that's sort of like this maybe imaginary purist way of looking at it. But,
but you make a good point,
something stopped, and if you were there, you'd go, okay, that was really, like, it was actually dangerous.
Yeah.
And, that's important.
Well, and there's been a big shift since the time that you were starting out in the late 80s, early 90s, and being a part of that to, let's say, right now. Because if you look at a concert experience, it's completely different. 75% of the people are there with their cell phone streaming whatever show is, watching the show that's right in front of them on their phone. And then there's the proliferation of home recording, but it's completely different than, DIY demos back in the 80s. You're not plugging into a boombox.
There were, I'm not saying it's a good thing, but it was just like, it was a battle between the bands and the crowd.
Yeah.
Who was trying to get up on the stage, and the bouncers just beating the shit out of people.
Yes.
And I mean, people really got hurt.
Oh, yeah.
It was really, and just imagining that today, it's unthinkable.
Yeah.
That would even, somebody would film it, and that would be, the end of clubs.
I mean, I remember going to shows and people jumping on stage to stage dive, and somebody, a roadie or a bouncer, would come from the stage and literally tackle them and throw them back into the crowd. You can't. That would be insane to them.
Yeah, but if they got you out, in the back alley by the fire escape or something, you're just like a chew toy for a dog.
Oh yeah.
And that was, I'm not saying that's good.
No, it's just
but
different.
I'm just saying that, like, that element of danger or whatever it is, it's just like, it just, in some ways, that aspect of performance or that aspect of going to shows, it's like this sterilized, neutered, behind thick glass, with gloves on version of that today. And or aspects of it are, not all of it. And I'm sure it exists in pockets that people don't know about, but just in general, I would have never thought, I'm just answering your question about doing that back then, it never occurred to me, like, while doing it, that it could have been the end of something.
Yeah.
But that's how life is.
Yeah, exactly. You don't think of the end as you're doing it, especially at that age.
No. You don't think about a part of your body like until it stops working.
Yeah, exactly.
It's sort of like, that's how a lung works.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm glad I got two of them now. So you're doing live shows, playing, opening, recording.
Well, yeah. I mean, the band that I was in went through a couple changes, and I ended up going solo because I was such a horrible human being.
Oh, was this Planet Dredd?
To play with me anymore. Yeah.
Okay.
and then I started playing solo, and I began singing songs that I was writing. I had no idea what I was doing, but once again, I was just sort of following a feeling.
Okay.
And following. It was just always a matter of, like, trying to match. There was always a margin between what I was hearing in my head and what I was able to do.
I know that feeling.
And it was always, and I was just trying to sort of match what I was feeling or hearing with what I was able to do. But you're doing that on stage.
So were you singing the entire time up to this point?
No, I only started doing that in like 1997 or 8. I really started to sing, and I mean, horribly. And sometimes I think it's harder when you actually, like, play an instrument and you have the sensation that, well, I want it to sound this way, and so I'll do this, and now it sounds this way. And then, well, I want my voice to sound this way, and then it's just so far away that you're like, it's almost like paralyzing. Yeah. You're like paralyzed with horror.
Yeah, you can't just add a pedal to your voice to make it do what you want.
Yeah, right. Or I mean, but
unless you're Billie Eilish.
Just knowing how to marry it with what you're already doing. Yeah, I went through that, and I started to do that. I was just playing a bunch of solo shows in New York, mainly.
Okay.
And at the time that happened, that my band kind of fizzled out, I met my wife to be, Marion, and she was from Austria.
Okay.
And so, yeah, we fell in love, and she was just like with me every step of the way in the music. And I had been to Austria a couple times with her, like I think the first time in like 96, actually.
Oh, cool.
And then again, maybe in like 98. And I was playing these solo shows, you know, working all these odd jobs, and it was clearly going nowhere.
Right.
And we just said, well, okay, well, why don't we just go to Europe, or go to Austria rather? And to me, even though I'd been there like twice, I could not tell you what the difference was between Austria, Sweden, and Yugoslavia.
Right.
Was the difference. It was just going to Europe for me.
Yeah,
there's a lot of differences, but I thought, yeah, well, you know, hey, why not?
Sure, what the hell?
So I did, and I'm still here.
And it's been 20 years.
Yeah, you know, you just look back and go, as I said, lying in bed, like doing bad math in your head, it makes absolutely no sense to me. But poof, you know, 20 years.
So you moved to Austria. How long before you start playing music and hooking up with the guys that would end up becoming the Mirrors?
That all happened. Well, there was an earlier version of that little concept. I met him like within like 8 months. We were living in the basement of an orthodontist's office. And they were like, they mixed the chemicals,
yeah,
you know, and I had this cat at the time, and there were the windows were milk glass with bars on them.
Oh my God.
And we had a cat, and they were mixing chemicals down there for whatever, these molds for teeth.
Yeah.
And sort of like there was this odor of chemicals, and then you'd open the door after a long day of, you know, working in a factory, which is the only thing I was able to do then. And there was just like this, you'd be knocked over by this wave of cat shit odor, because the cat, you know, then you're like, okay, it's time to change the litter box. And so that's the first place we lived. But luckily, like a couple blocks away, there was this rehearsal space, and it's small over there, and just one thing led to another, and I met little Concept, who had a rehearsal space and studio there, and we just started a band that, you know, based on my songs, and that started pretty quick over there, and we were playing live within a year of me getting over there.
Oh wow.
I was able to, I just remember describing it, not that anyone who's listening might know what an Etch-a-Sketch is.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Yeah, but it's sort of like if you made one of these, like, you ever see somebody like make a really detailed picture with an Etch-a-Sketch?
Yes.
And you're like, wow, you have a lot of time. And how did you do that? And if like while they're doing it, somebody would reach over their shoulder and just grab the Etch-a-Sketch and just shake it like vigorously and hand it back to them and go, here. Like that's kind of what it felt like. It just was a complete reset. You know, like, no, I didn't know anyone. No one knew who I was, for good and bad. And I think, it was like a weird way to just like start again. And I'm an extremely stubborn person, and I stubbornly just stayed. And just did it.
I'm going to make this work, damn it.
Yeah. So here I am. Well,
there's a shift in the sound, because I was listening to some of the Planet Dredd stuff, and it's you don't have to roll your eyes. It's not bad. But it's like a heavy psych sound. It reminded me a lot of like Mind Funk.
Really?
Yeah,
okay.
It's like
I was in that band too for a little while.
Oh, you were in Mind Funk?
Yeah. Well, they had that guy. What was his name? That he was in Nirvana.
Jason Everman.
Soundgarden, and he was in Mind Funk, and then they kicked him out, and then I replaced him.
And then he became like a Navy SEAL.
Tours. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Jason Everman.
I was his replacement for a couple tours.
That's crazy.
And then
I hadn't seen that anywhere.
You know, if you would, maybe I have to go back and listen, but I think that was a band where we were trying to sound a certain way, but we didn't, and it ended up sounding like that. And yeah, to me, it was sort of based in like, I don't know, like Bad Brains, really old Black Sabbath, old King Crimson, old Pink Floyd, and a whole bunch of other like eclectic sort of things that sort of overlapped with whatever was going on in the moment.
Yeah.
With grunge and all that, where it sort of seemed to fit, but we weren't a grunge band or anything like that.
But you kind of progressed from that heavy psych into more of a like the Germans had described it, the wolf of desert and grunge and
right. Well, when I was all I used to do was, you know, play and record, and I couldn't get enough of it. It was hard to tolerate me, I think, because I was really like into it. I didn't have anything else in my life. That was all I did. And so in addition to being in that band, I was sort of like moonlighting as this recording artist that I just recorded on a 4-track demos, pretty much just like nonstop. And I was exploring like all kinds of sounds. I worked in a record store, and I just would, you're just sitting there for whatever it was, like 8 hours a day, and I'd like see something come in, and I would put things away to like stock the shelves, and just like, by process of eliminate, the benefit of working there is you could buy something with a discount at the end of the week. So I would say like, well, all right, this guy's on it. Those songs don't sound so bad. So-and-so produced it.
That's exactly what I do.
Maybe this is going to be good. And I would get that. And a lot of times it was just like a complete bummer. And other times I would have to sit and listen to an hour of music to go, hey, these 4 songs are really cool. I don't know about the other 5 or 6, but maybe they'll grow on me. And through doing that and just listening, I was just really like a sponge and just trying to take in like all kinds of things. And so I would explore those aspects of what I was into on my own in like 4-track recordings that I couldn't get into the band format with whatever it was at the time. And so I think like later on, and even now, like a lot of those things were kind of drummed into me in a more impressionable age, where I was more just finding out who I was. And so I think a lot of it, it wasn't just like I just sort of jumped from this to this to this. It was there, but I just like found a way to incorporate it that made sense.
Okay. Well,
if you ask.
I was listening to your first few albums, like Reaching for Sparks, Sweet Hand of Fate, and Grand Illusion, and they seem to, and maybe it's just the order in which I listen to, they just seem to get a little heavier. Each one seems a little bit heavier than the previous one. Specifically,
you mean like texturally or emotionally?
Texturally.
Okay.
Reaching for Sparks, it's especially going from that to Sweet Hand of Fate. There's a lot more heaviness going on in Sweet Hand of Fate than there was in Reaching for Sparks.
What happened was my daughter was born, and I recorded that album like in sort of like hushed tones.
Dead leaves falling to the ground, lying in the gutter, lying at my feet. At least the genesis of the album.
Okay.
Like these hushed tones, like a room away from where she was napping. And then I later recorded the rest of it in a better studio with my friend, partner, and engineer Martin. And but it was based on that, and that's why it
Okay.
That way. And I just left the Mirrors, and what we did on record and on stage was, it was really, much more of a heavy kind of onslaught.
Yeah.
And so this was, I guess I was sort of like scratching an itch by doing that record. Not that I still really like the songs on it, but.
Oh yeah, it's great stuff.
I don't want to stop you where you were heading with that. So.
Oh no, it's what I wanted to say was that the albums, what I really like about them is that there's a variety of music in it. It's not just like if you listen to a Queens of the Stone Age album or a Nirvana album or Alice in Chains. It's all heaviness, especially Grand Illusion. You've got the harder, heavier tracks, but you've also got some softer, quieter stuff. But there's also humorous stuff like Going to the Hypnotist and things,